Flavor Flav.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, yo, check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav in the building for the Better Agency. Nicholas wants everyone to know how they need to listen to the truth that Nick and Preston are giving them. Flavor Flav got y'all out right now. You heard me? So hold it down and keep making it a better agency. Alright?
What's up, friend? Welcome to the Better Podcast. I'm Preston Schmidley here, joined by Nicholas Ayers.
Yo.
And we're really excited to bring you today's episode. Now, I want to start off. This podcast is brought to you by Better Agency, the leading technology in the insurance industry, helping agencies across the nation enhance their sales, sell more policies, help more families, improve the quality of life of the agency overall. It is a legitimate platform. If you haven't checked it out, go to www.betteragency.io. You can start a trial today for $1. And I'm sure that you can maximize that and make thousands of dollars just for that $1. So on today's episode, we're going to be joined by Ashley Mastowski. And one of the really cool things about Ashley's journey is she's a scratch agent. And through that, she's had quite an overwhelming journey getting used to really an agency from the various platforms, you know, whether it be CRMs, whether it be email marketing, agency management systems, you know, the various carrier platforms, and everything that goes along with that, e-signatures, and you name it, right? All this technology, she was overwhelmed from that perspective. It was a lot to manage while still selling, still trying to be present with her family. So I'm really excited to bring Ashley on for today's episode because I know myself, having multiple scratch agencies over my life, I'm very familiar with the agency overwhelm, and I'm sure, Nick, that you are too.
Yeah, I mean, her story is not unlike just about every other agency owner's story that's ever existed. When you think about, and I always remember, you know, when I go back to Innovation 2016, it was one of our very first events that we ever did with IAOA. It was in San Antonio. 120 agents is all we could take to the Mangler Hotel. And I remember the vendor hall in San Antonio had 15 vendors in it. It was all we can get because
so funny.
And like 2 or 3 of them weren't insurance vendors. There was like Infusionsoft or whatever. But it's compare that with today. And the reason we only had 15 was because those vendors didn't exist. You compare that today, it seems like every other day there's something new for an agent to pay attention to, whether it's you know, automation or marketing or just you name it. There's just so much out there. For Ashley, you can really understand why somebody would get overwhelmed. You just don't know. Everywhere you look, there's a new shiny gadget trying to get your attention, and that can be very frustrating, especially if you don't already know what it is that you're looking for. You're just hearing, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need this, I need that, I need this. And that can get just really quick. You know, there's a saying in our industry, you get $49.95 to death. And it's just because there's so much out there. So, you know, Ashley, when she started with Better Agency, and when she first got started, she didn't want to be overwhelmed with technology. She didn't want to be overwhelmed with software. She's an insurance agent. She's not, you know, the second coming of Mark Zuckerberg. And, you know, I think that is, that's become kind of a serious issue, I think, in our business, one that I think a lot of agents can resonate with.
Well, I think the important thing, like you said, the second coming of Mark Zuckerberg, you know, if Mark Zuckerberg had Facebook and the idea of Facebook and all that talent behind it as well, right? And let's say he was selling insurance, he probably would have stopped selling insurance, right? Most insurance agents will never be a Mark Zuckerberg. And so I think the cool thing about Ashley that I really respect and admire is, you know, instead of being distracted by all these shiny objects, and you know, obviously we're going to hear from her, which is really exciting to hear about her journey. But she really she defined her lane, and she said, what am I going to do and what am I going to delegate out, or at least let technology take over so I'm not doing it. And she really just buckled down, committed, and she focused on selling insurance, and she had a great first year, and she's growing, which I think is massive. I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I mean, I've started 2 scratch agencies now, so there's a special place in the bottom cockles of my heart for agents that want to start from nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it really takes. I mean, it's hard enough in this business, but when you do it with $0 in the bank and zero policies on the books, that's commendable when you build something.
Yeah.
Shout out to all those who take over third, fourth generation agency owners as well. None of it's easy.
Different problems.
Just different problems. But when you are starting out, when you come from the captive world and you say, you know what, I'm gonna go independent. I'm just gonna rock and roll in this thing. I mean, there's just a place in my heart for people like that. And so it's been great. Not everybody succeeds, but Ashley's winning.
Most don't. Yeah.
Yeah, Ashley's winning. She'd tell you she's not there yet,
Right.
but she's on her way, and that's what's really, really cool. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation with her today.
Let's dive in.
All right, I'm here with Ashley Mastowski in Las Vegas. Ashley has a really unique story. It's a story that I actually connect with a lot because I think if you've ever been through a point in your life where you were a scratch agent, you know how hard it can be to get the ball rolling. And I think Ashley and I share a lot of those similarities. I mean, I started as a scratch agent. I didn't do it once. I actually did it twice. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. And it's a challenge. It's hard. And I think if you've ever been in that situation, you can feel what that's like. You know what that's like. Ashley, take us through a point in your career, whether it was early on or whether it is something you're still going on, it's still happening today. Take us through, a time where you were up against a challenge. There was something that you had to overcome in your business.
Just in general, I was an office manager before, so I was never an actual agent. So just being an owner and having to wear all the hats was pretty overwhelming. And the first year out of the gate, it was just hustle. I have to make sales and feed my family and make income. So then I think where I really hit my biggest kind of challenge was I'm just about to the year mark, and now my renewals are starting to come in, and I have no processes in place. I have no idea what I'm doing, no idea what to expect. And it was just really overwhelming because I had nothing. I had to really switch gears and put my business owner hat on, to say the least, and figure out, okay, I got to put some processes and procedures in place. I still got to write business, but I got to keep my old business. I can't move backwards. So that's kind of where I got, I would say, the most overwhelmed in this whole process.
So Ashley, question for you on that. So you had made the transition from managing an office to running the show, right? So now you have to be the CEO, the CFO, the CMO. You have to be the person in the front lines. You're everybody, right? You're wearing a lot of hats. And I think a lot of people watching this or listening to it are able to resonate with that. Like Nick, I've been scratch more times than I can count. 2 captive, 1 life only, and 1 independent. It's definitely a trail best walked for the gritty personalities. So kudos to you on that, on doing the hard way. But in my opinion, it's a great way to go because you learn a lot of good, valuable skills. What were some of the things that when you were going scratch that, obviously it's hard, but what were some of the things that you identified as like what I like to define as the big domino, right? So like when this thing was knocked over, life became infinitely better, right? Like what are some of the big dominoes for you that, because all of it's hard when you're scratched, like, let's be honest, but some of the things that when you started to knock out, you just had a better quality of life.
I think it was just getting used to, I came from the captive world. So I knew one company like the back of my hand, and I worked there for 13 years. So I was very good at knowing everything. So the biggest thing and issue for me was now I have to know 20 different companies, 20 different things. How am I going to be able to do this? I don't even know. I'm just going to figure it out. So I would say that honestly was probably my biggest. It's a whole different world.
Sure.
I wouldn't have it any other way, but it was probably my biggest one right there.
Yeah.
Now, you've been a Better Agency user for a while now. I mean, so if you're just coming up for a year, you jumped onto the Better Agency train relatively quickly. How would you say that, in those challenges that you faced, how has Better Agency specifically, how has it helped you kind of overcome those obstacles and kind of put you in a place where you feel momentum? Because I think that's the biggest thing that, is always refreshing to any business owner, but especially in the insurance industry, when you feel that wind in your sails, you have that momentum, and you feel like there's things that are moving and things that are rolling. How has Better Agency kind of helped you get to that spot, or how is it helping you get to that spot that you ultimately want to get at?
It literally changed the game for my agency, because I was in that place, and it was January and February that I was just really overwhelmed with handling processes, how to do all the things and wear all the hats. And the renewals were coming up. At the time, the renewal campaign, I actually am thankful that we're all kind of growing together, because it's overwhelming. I like to know everything about something that I'm jumping into. And I've learned that's not necessarily the case, just kind of like getting good at little bits and pieces. So I was able to, it was kind of nice. The renewal campaign hadn't launched yet. So I was really focusing on the sales aspect, because I was losing a lot of sales because I was having to wear all the hats. So I wasn't doing the best at following up with customers and leads and all of that stuff. So it takes a lot to email, and then remember to do it again in 2 or 3 days. And then you have to stay on these people, especially in such a competitive market. So it was able to put together everything. So then I kind of mastered the sales part of it. I implemented a little bit of the service. The claims was awesome. So I had a couple customers that had claims, put them in the claims campaign. I didn't ever have to worry about it again, which was really cool. It did all of the follow-up, made me look like I mean, I do care, but it really made me look like I was really putting in that extra effort. And then the renewal campaign launched. And honestly, that to me was even bigger, because now it's a daily habit. I go in and I look at the campaign and I see who's set to renew. I monitor it against, rate increases and changes and things like that. So it's a one place for me to kind of do everything. So it really legitimately changed the way that I run my business.
And that's really cool to hear. I mean, I know you like you said, we kind of started together on that. Better Agency obviously is a rather new platform, and it's been cool to have you on that journey with us. Starting from the beginning and to where we're at now. And Nick, me, McBilly, Will, all of us here are very marketing first. Like our goal is always, how do we help people make more money, right? Like that's the first thing. 'Cause it's like every problem gets, and this is something I struggled with in my 20s. I wish I would have gone back and been able to inform myself about this. Every problem you have in life gets infinitely easier to handle when you have money, and it's a lot harder when you don't have money, and the only way to do things is time or hope and faith. And so, it's sales is a really big thing for us, right? So talk to me about that. You said that, you had been utilizing Better Agency as far as from a sales capacity. Are you talking about like through the sales pipeline and the sales campaign? Like were those the things that I guess my question is, where in your sales flow, your sales process at your agency specifically, right? Not just in Better Agency, but where in your processes did Better Agency really enhance your life in the sales capacity?
Yeah. And one of the things you hit on it a little bit ago, knowing kind of just following and knowing who all of you guys were and your backgrounds, that's what I was bad at. That is my big weakness, is marketing. And I have some good ideas, but to implement them, or maybe they're not good ideas, but I knew that if with you guys having a marketing background, I figured I was going to be safe, because you would make that part easy for me. But that's exactly what happened. So I started Better Agency. I imported all of my lists for my prospects, and literally launched the campaign. And I remember this one guy, I have his commercial policy. And at the time we wrote the commercial policy, he wasn't ready. He's kind of spacey. So we didn't follow through on the auto part. But I knew the company that he had, I had a good shot. So I remembered that. And it was one of those, I was still overwhelmed. I'm, doing everything. And so I dropped the ball. He didn't really ghost me. We kind of ghosted each other.
Sure.
And
as it happens.
Yeah, exactly. So life got in the way, and I completely forgot about it. I uploaded the list. We did the first sales campaign just to get back out to people and get back in front of them. And I'm not kidding. He texted right away and he goes, yes, we need to look at our auto policy. And so I ran the quote and I called him back, and of course, no answer. So then I learned how the campaigns work. I moved him over in the pipeline to your quote is ready. And you guys did all the back work, and you texted him I think it was every other day, saying your quote's ready. Did you get a chance to review it? Not kidding. He has $8,000 a year premium for just his personal auto policy and household. And we closed it.
That's
So I was like, it works. This is so cool. And I didn't do literally anything.
I love that. Yeah.
It works.
It works.
Yeah. Talk about, you mentioned a word that I think often encapsulates how so many other agency owners feel, whether it comes to technology, processes, sales, staff, just running the business and balancing your life. You mentioned a word that is often overlooked, but it just is how so many people are found today, and that's overwhelmed. Talk about what it was like, and talk about that feeling of being overwhelmed, and talk about how somebody who is already in that boat is already feeling like they have the whole world against them. It's constantly raining in their boat. Talk about how to get out of that. Talk about how to find a path of least resistance so that you don't feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders as an agency owner.
Sure. You know, I knew I was having to make changes and put the processes in place come January and February this last year. And I was getting even more overwhelmed because I was listening. I'm always educating myself. So I'm listening to these successful agency owners, but I knew they had money and I knew they've been doing this for 10, 12 years plus. And so their struggles weren't the same as mine. I knew at one point they were probably where I'm at, but it was so far apart. I'm like, I felt back to square one, and I'm like, well, I'm just this little, agency that is just trying to find some sort of balance and stay afloat on just being able to do everything. And so when I found Better Agency, I was also doing kind of trial runs with a bunch of other software, because obviously it's a very competitive market.
Sure.
And I just, at the end of the day, I finally just had to go with my gut, because they all had good things about them. They all had good qualities. But a lot of them, I still had to have like 3 different subscriptions, or I still had to have like X, Y, and Z attached to it. I'm all about simplicity and keeping things simple. I'm a very big advocate of the KISS method. And it's just, some of these other programs, there were so much more upfront integration and upfront setting things up. And I didn't have that time, nor did I have thousands of dollars to pay somebody to do it. So it was just extremely overwhelming. And I said, well, I really like what Better Agency's doing. I know the guys behind it have an immense amount of marketing experience. My gut kept saying, just quit the others, quit thinking, you're overthinking everything, and just go with it. So that's kind of, I finally just said, all right, I can't spend another week or 2 weeks with my time, because I still had to write business too, and handle renewals. And so I finally just said, I just got to go, I just got to essentially place my trust in it. And I love that everything was there. I didn't have to have 3 different, setups, and I didn't have to worry about, well, if I grow with all these leads, now I have to pay a higher amount with my agency. This is what I'm expected. This is what I'm getting. And that's easy to me.
Ashley, if you don't mind me asking, how long did it take you to get set up on Better Agency? Like what was your just time to launch, like, to actually use it?
Probably the hardest part was figuring out my management system on how to get the reports needed to upload it. So that was the most challenging for me, trying to figure out my management system. Once I got that Excel sheet, super easy to upload. I didn't trust myself doing it. So the Better Agency staff support team, I literally handed them the Excel sheet. They uploaded it for me, and done. It was really just I want to watch the videos, and there's still little things that I'm learning
Sure.
and implementing as I'm going. So I just know that I'm doing everything thoroughly and correctly, and it's been very successful doing it that way.
Nice. Well, I mean, you've made maximum. I think that I think you've made maximum usage of the platform, which is really cool. You're really, and we continue to innovate it and add new things to it. And our goal is to, I mean, we never really stop at that. We work at it every day. And so that'll be a perpetual race between us of you trying to catch up to the new things. But that's a good thing. And,
don't worry, I'm 2 emails behind on the updates. That's actually this weekend and next weekend. I have to sit through and watch the videos that Will sent, so I'm updated. So
there'll be new emails between now and then. You better hurry. So, but no, it's really cool to watch how you've been using it. What if you had to isolate one thing from Better Agency that you're like, if I could only keep one thing from it and I had to lose the rest of it, what is that one thing for you? I know it might be a tough question because there's a lot of cool things, but
I would say then it's a real toss-up between the renewal campaign and the sales campaign, but me personally need help on the sales campaign. So I would say I love the sales funnels and campaigns and the pipelines that are associated with it with the step. So
nice.
I would say that was the biggest thing for me.
I think one of the coolest things is just we talk about when we talk to people. One of the things they always bring up is what they see in other people, and I think you've mentioned it here as well. I saw these agents doing this, and I wanted to emulate that level of success. I wanted to be where they were at. Whether we say that to ourselves out loud or it's just kind of a feeling that we have internally, I think we all have that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's human nature. We aspire to have success. We aspire to have that momentum. And I think one of the cool things that has been really neat to see with you is to see that momentum. I mean, we let's face it, we are in an industry where less than 10% of the people that go into it succeed. I'm using if you're only listening to this, I'm using the famous Gary V air quotes. Less than 10% of our industry makes it. They succeed. They continue to go on year after year. And it's for a scratch agent. That's really hard. I mean, you're starting something out of thin air. And I tell people all the time, when I did it, it was with 0 policies on the books and $0 in the bank. You've got to figure it out. So what's really cool is to see that momentum that you've had, to see those successes that you've had. And we're a little bit privy because we get to see it. We get to hear about it. Most people aren't. But I think just kind of watching you kind of grow into that agency owner that is building something really special and really unique, and you have a desire to help your clients and your prospects, I think has been really fascinating and fun to watch, at least from this side of the microphone. It's been really a cool thing to see. Ashley, we're going to wrap this up here. Is there anything that you would say to people who are maybe new on their journey, who are just kind of getting started or thinking about, maybe they're thinking about throwing in the towel. Maybe they're thinking about, maybe this isn't for me. What would you say to kind of those people to kind of help them, encourage them, or, I would say maybe put them out of their misery, but what is something that you would say to them that would say, it's not the end of the road for you. There's so much more for you, and to kind of help them along that path.
The overwhelming part is for sure all of the moving pieces in the independent world. So it can wear somebody down because it's just a lot to take in. This legitimately simplifies it. And so it really takes out that overwhelming piece to make things a lot easier. So if you can simplify things within your agency, you still enjoy being a business owner, you still enjoy insurance, and you have a passion for helping people, at the end of the day, you should keep going and you should, do it, and you don't want to get burned out. So if you have a tool at your disposal where it's doing a lot of the work for you, so you can find that balance. I'm still working on the balance, but if you can find a tool that can really help with that, it's worth it to give it a shot and to play it out and see, because it really has taken a bunch of time off my hands. So, and it leaves the time for me to be good at what I'm good at doing, which is not marketing. And so it works in the back end for me without having to pay payroll taxes and having an employee on there doing it. And I hired my first employee, and she just started diving in last month. It was really easy for her to learn. and she's really enjoyed utilizing it. And the only thing she keeps forgetting is to add the sales. So I had to yell at her yesterday.
You're fired.
Sales, so it looks good.
Did you think 8 months ago that you'd be at the spot where you're already hiring your first producer?
That's amazing.
No.
Isn't that awesome? That's an awesome
So
feeling,
cool.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a different headache in its own, I know, but it signifies growth. It signifies scalability. It signifies that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's great.
You're doing the
That's great
thing.
to hear. So
Yeah.
Ashley, we want to thank you so much for being on
Thank
the Better
you.
Podcast. If there's anything, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to maybe,
Yeah.
see what you're doing?
They can call, text me. I'm available anytime, or even find me on Facebook and message me. I'm always happy to chat because I sure don't know everything either. So we can all learn from each other.
There you
And
go.
I'm really happy to work with other people and just have a great conversation.